Thank you very much for inviting me today to speak. My name is Liz Williams, and I'm a product manager for our Eyewitness. So I live, breathe, and much more with our Eyewitness. It's my day-to-day. So I'm going to be talking about what it does and where we're going with it, because I think it's really important to let you understand that, as you said, it was launched back in 2007 in reaction to the HFEA's requirement to introduce manual double witnessing. But it's developed a lot over the years since then. So just a couple of things that have been introduced recently. So I'm in contact with clinics and embryologists on a daily basis, asking them, what are your challenges? What are your problems? Because I want us to be able to fix those or find tools to help alleviate the problems. So there's a couple of things that we've introduced just recently. For example, the first thing is mismatch categories. So as Demetrius said, basically if a mismatch happens in your work area, the system requires you to actually identify what the issue was, so it's recorded in the log. But one person can write an issue or happening in one way, and another person writes it completely differently with different words. So for a lab director's perspective, this means it's very hard to drill down and see the trends there. So we introduce mismatch categories so that you can define. There is also another option if you want to type in a long explanation. But again, it means that you can quickly analyze if there's any trends and whether you need to make some changes to the protocols or the training. We've also introduced full tag location history. So again, it's that duration. It's logging exactly how long the sample is in the work area, but also what the procedures is, meaning that you're getting that vital information about how long things are taking. We have embryo biopsy tracking process, which I'll come on to in a minute. Fingerprint ID. The requirement was that we wanted other ways to be able to identify our patients. And also, we're thinking all the time about increased security, because we know that that is a big issue within a lot of labs, that they want to make sure that any patient data is secure. So. And then things are changing. We have many more cycles that involve third parties, so donors or gestational carriers. And it's important that we add the security levels equally as, say, a normal cycle. So we've introduced refinements and the ability to define a list of donors and gestational carriers within the cycle treatment. Also, patients' expectations are changing. Not everybody wants to be defined as a male or a female. So we've introduced a different gender option there. We've also looked at sample transfers, because we know that sometimes that patients move from one clinic to another, but within the same network. So now you can actually transfer and continue that traceability within the network once you move your sample. We also have digital patient ID. We're all used to going to the airport. Once upon a time, we'd print out our boarding pass or ask somebody to print it out. Now we go with our phone. It's already on our phone. And now you can have a digital ID, so you can send this to your patient. We see this as an additional form of identification that can be useful to the clinics. And we're preparing for cloud readiness. A lot of clinics or clinic groups, larger clinic groups, don't want to have IT resources in each of their sites, because they could be smaller sites, satellite sites. So they're moving their digital assets up into the cloud. And we've been working to modernize our system, to make sure that when we're doing queries, so basically sending information from the tablets, from the work area, through to the database, that happens quickly so that you're not impaired in the way that you're working. So we have cloud readiness. So the witness database can now be stored in a cloud. So I'd love to be able to predict the future, wouldn't we all? Because we all want a brighter, more positive, to be in a brighter, more positive and efficient position. We've seen how IVF has changed. Now, I've been working in the industry for about 14 years, and I can remember coming in, and the big thing was time-lapse when I first started in IVF, but things have moved on rapidly since then. There's new and changing technology, new treatment options, and a rise in process steps. And obviously, when things become more complex, it also means that there are greater risks. And these risks will grow, as things become more complex. We've done a number of polls over the years, and we've identified a number of new challenges that a lot of the clinics have. And these include the drive for greater transparency, driven by patients, especially when you see high-profile mismatched stories in the news. Patients also want to be more involved, to be able to see what's happening. There's a need for customization of treatments. Not everything is the same. Not each treatment program is the same. And obviously, we see an increase of regulatory scrutiny and also the need for reporting. And there's also challenges within training. So having clear SOPs are essential to meet these different patient pathways, but not only to reduce risk, but also to allow for transparency and oversight. So identifying KPIs, bringing together the data that underlies those KPIs is really important to help monitor and set these targets, but also to optimize and improve lab performance. So, my ambition, and the ambition of my organization, is to provide technology, such as the RI Witness system, that not only safeguards samples, but also provides the means to optimize patient cycles using this data. So we really see that fact-based lab management is going to increasingly play an important role. The ability to collect, collate, and analyze data will give you new insights. And to be able to provide it in a manner that is not intimidating. We can all look at a spreadsheet of numbers, data points, etc. But it's being able to organize that in a way that actually is meaningful to you is important. And this will lead to direct improvements in processes, lead to efficiencies, and ultimately also cost efficiencies, which I'm sure we all want ultimately. So, it's about being in control, having the right tools at hand to be able to do what you want them to do, what you want to do with that data. And I see data can be divided into three sets. The first, chain of identity. Second, chain of custody. And third, chain of condition. So we need to track all the key ID information, not only within the lab, but also increasingly outside of the lab as well, whatever the variables. So with RI Witness, you can not only track the number of oocytes, but also embryos throughout the cycle. It's configurable to manage different patient scenarios, including egg and sperm donations, as I've said before. And we've got dedicated resources, R&D resources, who are basically helping us to determine new patient configurations, because they're changing quite rapidly, different type of patient configurations. It tracks each step within the lab and offers the ability to move samples from one lab to the other, as I've said before. And we're looking to increase this range of tracking in the future to give greater integrity in the chain of identity. And then in doing this, we will also help to reduce the manual works related to donors and donations, the risk of transcription errors. So with embryo and biopsy tracking, you can now identify individual embryos at the point of fertilization through the culture process. It allows you to create a unique ID for each of the biopsy samples, building a link between the biopsy and the embryos. And this gives the lab greater security and transparency on the receipt of the genetic tests. And then on the movement to thaw and transfer, it can warn an embryologist or the operator which embryo has been approved for transfer to ensure that no errors are made. Then looking at chain of custody, this is often a regulatory requirement in many countries, and having a system like Witness, RI Witness, allows you to automatically track and document what the procedure was, who did it, where it was done, when it was done, and obviously as importantly as how long it took. As Demetrios said, this is a really important KPI. And then you compare that data compare the data over different periods, over different years. And then if you're seeing variances, then you can start investigating. You can already log when gametes and embryos are taken out of an incubator and brought into the work area, time-stamping the period within that work area. And moving forward, we're looking to increase that connectivity, providing data that can be used to plan, upscale, and refine process. So really spreading out that web, that network of data points. I talk to many lab directors, and I know that cryostorage is a real pain. It can be really hard. The requirements for auditing, the requirements for identifying exact location of the sample, and also looking at capacity as well. And this is something that we recognise and we're looking to address moving forward. The final thought is the chain of condition. And again, with optimization in mind, we're considering the requirements to manage, regulate, and monitor environmental factors, which could influence those potential marginal gains that you will want to make for each lab. So again, it's building that network of data points that will hopefully achieve those gains. As Demetrius said, we've already got tracking of our consumables, and it can identify, for example, associate, say, a media with a certain specific patient cycle. So if there is a a recall, you can easily pull off that data in a report rather than having to flip through loads of cycle sheets. But having the facility to order your stock when things are low, or having tighter management, allowing a reduction in wastage, again, is an ambition that we have, so that you've got efficient use of your consumables. We already have warnings if, for example, a batch of media is coming up to its expiration date, so the system can warn you when that happens, so you make sure that you use it and don't have to put it in the bin. And then we see our eyewitness evolving into a bigger lab management system, providing information that can determine if a work area is being underused, we can already do that, or is not set up correctly. And as Demetrius said, I mean, I've talked to a number of directors who've either used the data that they pulled to create a business case to prove to the people with a checkbook that they do need new kit. But also, for example, I had one person was saying that they had a rig set up for a left-handed person, and the left-handed person had left their lab, but it hadn't been reconfigured. So they managed to make some quick tweaks, and great, they were optimizing the use of it again. But we want to be able to link the system to other pieces of equipment within your lab. So, for example, we don't only raise a mismatch alarm, but if there is equipment failure or servicing requirements, again, the system would be able to notify of that too. So spreading and connecting this network of data nodes will really give you greater visibility of what's going to be happening or what's happening within your lab, allowing you to manage things in a practical way. So we want to create a comprehensive digital ecosystem for you that will have a positive effect on the lab. And just want to reiterate what Peter Drucker said, you can't manage what you don't measure. And I think IQ, our eyewitness IQ, can really help you improve your lab, your fact-based lab management through the data that we gather. It's pushed up into the cloud, providing analytical tools that are customizable by yourselves, so it meets your needs, allowing you to analyze across not only your own lab, but other labs within the group. So you can look at the benchmarks, setting benchmarks there. Who's doing well? You know, where can we make refinements? Different labs using different protocols, what's working? We can create monthly reports that, again, can be used within your annual reviews or monthly reviews. And, as I said before, look at efficiencies in other areas, such as consumables. So I see the future as being bright. I think we're going to be changing. We are evolving quickly. We're making a lot more updates. And I hope to speak to some of you later, because I know there's a lot of ideas within the group just here about how they would like this system to evolve. And I'm really excited to be able to talk to anybody who's got ideas. So thank you very much.